This game's demo does not do it justice. The first hour and a half or so are the weakest part of the First Berserker Khazan. I played it and thought this game would just be decent, maybe a 7 or 8 out of 10. Well, it's better than that. The main problem is that it's structured in a way that it takes too long to introduce the bread and butter of what you'll be working with. You spend the first hour with a single weapon type, no ranged attacks, no skill trees, no spirit abilities, no parry, and more. Or less, I guess. Eventually you will get all those things and others, but without them it feels one note and obfuscates the clearest influence this game has. Nioh. If you like Nioh, you will like this game. It is Nioh. It plays like Nioh, it feels like Nioh, it's structured like Nioh, it borrows heavily from virtually every Nioh mechanic, and the result is that when all these systems are finally introduced and blend together, you get that full cohesive package of a fast-paced Souls-like with flashy combat and extended combos to bully your opponents into the ground with. Except the bosses. They'll probably bully you instead, unless you're on easy mode, which this game has, so go nuts if you're a noob looking to dip your toe into the hardcore world of Souls-likes. It took me about 43 hours to beat this game on normal, which is the only other difficulty, and to complete all the side missions. So to people wondering about the full price tag, the game is beefy and worth it, just like Nioh was. I'm going to jump right into the game graph. We're out here judging story, graphics, mechanics, and fun as separate categories before culminating with an overall score at the end. Starting with story, you've got a very typical fantasy anime-style narrative going on. You are the great General Khazan, who was revered as a hero, but then betrayed by your kingdom, crippled and exiled. During a prisoner transport, an avalanche blows your wagon away, and then this phantom ghost possesses your body and gives you back your health and strength, so now you gotta deal with that, and undergo your mission of revenge on those who cast you out. It's mostly window dressing, but there are a couple story beats that are impactful and twists and turns regarding who actually betrayed you, and you have familiar voice acting from the guy who played Clive in Final Fantasy XVI as Khazan, and the guy who played Stroll in Metaphor ReFantazio as like 8 other side characters who all have the same voice. This dude will literally have a conversation with himself as 2 different characters, and they sound exactly the same, like he's talking in a mirror. It's wacky. One character will be like, "We need to get moving as soon as possible," and the character right next to him will be like, "Yes, we have to hurry and rescue as many people as we can." The acting is good, but it felt like some voice actors dropped out, and this dude just picked up the slack without changing anything. Anyway, you wouldn't play this game for the story, so I give it a 70 for just being there, since it's at least not bad. Next is graphics. It's a neat juxtaposition of anime-style characters rendered in a more realistic setting, like the Looney Tunes and Space Jam, but less ridiculous. The environments look good, and the characters never clash with them, and the graphics on moves and the flashy particle effects of combat and spells look great. We're not reaching Genshin or Star Rail level cutscenes as far as animation quality, as those are what I'd call the gold standard of anime cutscenes, but the moment-to-moment gameplay and backdrops actually do look better, and that's what you'll be experiencing for the most part anyway. I'd give graphics a 90. Then we have mechanics, and there's a lot to go over. Like I said, this is Nioh, from the combos to the skill trees to the equipment to the loot drops to the set bonuses to the gear attributes to the etc. But there's other influences parked here too, namely the perfect blocks from Sekiro and Lies of P, as well as perfect dodges that serve a similar purpose but provide extra invincibility frames. I'm a perfect blocker at heart. Ever since Lies of P, I'm tapping L1 in rhythm with my enemy's attacks and having the time of my life. But perfect dodges are also useful to avoid elemental status buildup from enemies that have elemental weaponry, or to prevent certain enemies from regaining stamina when they make contact with you, so I appreciate that there are reasons to choose one over the other. You can also sprint around very flexibly and close or open the distance between you and an enemy as needed, flowing like water in a way that is very Nioh-esque and feels just as good. The combat is wet, that's the word for it. It's fluid and dynamic. It can be calm and elegant like a winding river, or it can be an onslaught of crashing fury like a tidal wave. Boss fights will have you perfect blocking and dodging in rhythm, getting your hits in where you can, lowering enemy stamina and attempting to get it to 0 to stagger them and open them up for a tremendous window of damage. Human-type enemies expend and regenerate stamina like you do, while beasts and chaos monsters have a set amount of stamina that only goes down when you hit them, but never comes back up until you've depleted it, offering different strategies depending on the enemy type. I will say that bosses in general have way too much HP. You'll open them up and do an 8-second long combo to bookend a visceral attack, and they'll have lost like 10% of their health. Part of that is because the game wants you to go balls deep into the weapon and armor system, not just by having the highest main number on a random spear or helmet, but by maximizing attribute rolls and stacking armor set bonuses to significantly increase your damage. But this doesn't become cost effective to do until the last half or third of the game, because rolling attributes becomes increasingly more expensive the more you do it, and you can't craft good sets until you find the blueprints in later missions anyway. I mentioned Genshin and Star Rail before, and if you've played those, suppose it's kind of a similar concept here. The stats on your equipment matter. The difference between your weapon having 46 extra attack as opposed to something like dodge costs 2.7% less stamina is huge. The first half of the game I was paper cutting these bitches. Bosses would take 8 to 10 minutes of near flawless execution to beat, and then I spent half an hour delving into the attributes of my gear and trying to stack up offensive bonuses, and I improved my damage by at least 40%. So then it was 5 or 6 minutes of flawless execution instead. You still have to be good at this game to beat it on normal, there's no getting around that. Maybe unless you summon an NPC, but I never did that because there's a trophy for not doing it, so I don't know how good they are. As for the skill trees, they make a big difference. I mained the spear, so I only did spear skills as well as the overall ones that apply to anything, and they fundamentally change the way you play sometimes. Put a few points in the spirit javelin and you can one-shot big enemies with a fully charged headshot, or get the ability to recover stamina after landing a visceral attack so you can keep up the combo, or invest in the parry skill tree so you have a parry that can parry. The mission structure is Nioh. You'll go on specific main and side missions that take you to specific closed locations. It's not an open world or an open-ended layout. You go in a level that is designed for you to eventually get from point A to point B while unlocking shortcuts and checkpoints along the way. I prefer this. I'm sick of open worlds where you have to ride around and search for content, so this more traditional setup is welcome. If I had one gripe about a mechanic, it's that the elemental status afflictions are too skewed towards chaos and plague, especially in the latter half. Chaos buildup lowers your max HP and can continuously stack until you have basically no max HP at all, and Plague is just poison that does damage over time. There's a bunch of other elements: fire, frost, electrocution, heft, hallucination, venom, but you almost never see any of those. Fire, sure, but there's literally one enemy in the whole game that does heft buildup, which can petrify you, and hallucination, which inverts your controls, is relegated to 2 enemies in one area. There can also be the same enemy variety issue that Nioh has. There's a lot of different types of enemies, but the game has so much content that they still get recycled a lot. I give mechanics a 90. Now we have fun. Is the First Berserker Khazan fun? Yes sir, even when it's not. The only times where it wouldn't be are when you're on attempt number 12 of a boss you're stuck on, but the palpable improvements each attempt makes lead to a crescendo of skill expression that pays off satisfyingly at the end. People ask how difficult this game is in comparison to other Souls-likes. This game is hard, consistently hard. Not so much the areas of regular enemies once you get their patterns down and start running into them more, but the bosses will almost always knock your ass out a few times. You go in there and flounder around trying to instinctively perfect block and dodge stuff, and they're doing the flowchart on you, knowing how first-time players will react. It's like fighting an experienced fighting game player when you don't even know what attacks they're capable of yet. We all express frustration in the moment as we bang our heads against the wall, but as long as you can look back and go, that was fun, that's what you want and what this game delivers. Except one boss. She has a shield and she is a bitch. She can get fucked and I never want to fight her again. She's not the hardest boss, but she's the most bullshit by far. Anyway, I streamed this game almost longer than I slept over the past 4 days, and even though I was forcing myself to play longer stretches than I would have if I wasn't a YouTuber with soft deadlines, it was almost always fun, so fun gets a 95. And now it's time for the overall score, which is not an aggregate of the previous scores because some things are weighted differently. I'm giving the First Berserker Khazan a 91 out of 100. Nioh was my game of the year in 2017, and this is Nioh, but anime. That's gonna do it for this game graph. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can like, share, and subscribe. Watch all my other videos while you're out of stamina, helplessly watching me recover mine faster, and I'll see you guys next time.